Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. A'udhu billah shaitan rajim. May God protect us from the cursed one and unnecessary ignorance. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praise due to the Lord of the worlds. Rabbit Firli, my Lord, forgive me for all the sins that I am conscious and unconscious of. Ihdina Sirat al Mustaqim. May God guide us to the direct path. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another lecture. Um, for today's lecture, I was doing some research on, in some sense, what is the fastest way to advance humanity. I have been someone who has been tackling the concern for an advanced civilization for like a decade now. You cannot care about the betterment of humanity without reaching the conclusion of the advanced probability of humanity. Anyways, pretty much I came, I asked AI through like a series of prompts that eventually got to me asking it for an equation, a formula for the advanced civilization. It came up with a formula. I think it's worth explaining. So, what is the justification for this formula, which reads as kernel awakening times systemic inversion times tech amplification times meaning integration, all raised to the power of replication equals advanced humanity. So that's what the formula means. Now, to explain it, why a formula at all? So, guys, I'm reading the research here. Humans today are overwhelmed by scattered philosophies, isolated solutions, and reactive band aids. But what we need is a cohesive system, one that connects inner transformation with outer systems, bridges technology and ethics, explains how ideas scale into civilizations, and does it in a way that's memorable, visual, and executable. This formula is designed as a multidimensional key, not a prediction, but a blueprint, not a theory, but a design pattern for planetary evolution. Breakdown of each variable. So the first part is kernel awakening. The symbol, the upward arrow, signifies elevation of the core human software. Why kernel? In computing, the kernel is the base level logic that all operations run on. It's in humans, it's our inner operating system, how we make sense of reality, what we believe we are, what drives our choices. Why is this step one? If we don't awaken the inner system, all external change is cosmetic. No new tech or system will matter if the same fear, ego, tribalism, and short termism run the show. What's in the kernel? Identity. So the human kernel The core, I guess, values. It's like the core base level logic that all operations run on. Okay. So the kernel for human being, it's their identity. Who am I? It's will. What should I do? It's perception. What is true? It's motivation. What matters? Kernel awakening includes metacognition, thinking about thinking, compassion and moral maturity, a cosmic or a spiritual sense of being watched, tested, or guided, internal silence, reflection, alignment. This is human evolution at its root. So we pretty much have to update the inner system of the human being, the core inner system of the human being. And then we have systemic inversion. So that symbol, guys, the inverted triangle, it's called nabla. So the nabla symbol is often used in vector calculus to denote gradient or change in direction. Here it represents inversion or turning systems inside out. Why inversion? Because most of today's systems were built on flawed priorities. Education equals obedience, economy equals extraction, media equals manipulation, politics equals power hoarding. To evolve civilization, we don't just tweak these, we invert their fundamental values. What inverts? From memorization to inner mastery, from wealth hoarding to regenerative economies, from centralized control to open participatory design, from fame algorithms to dignity algorithms. Systemic inversion is the ethical redesign of civilization's operating systems. Then we have T with an upwards arrow, which it signifies evolution. So technology is amplifier, symbol meaning another arrow because when aligned with awakened humans, tech becomes an amplifier of our higher nature. Why include technology? Because tech is the most powerful force shaper of our reality right now. But we must ask, is the technology extending our consciousness or numbing our awareness? Tech must be transparent, human aligned, spirit aware, designed to scale wisdom, not addiction. Examples: AI as mirror, not just chatbot. Neurotech for healing, not surveillance. Blockchain for trust, not speculation. Smart cities for connection, not control. If tech is ungoverned by meaning, it becomes a dark god. But if guided by conscience, it becomes a haloed extension of humanity. Then we go to meaning integration, mythos plus plus. The symbol meaning, the plus sign with the circle around its symbol, is the direct sum or integration symbol. It implies combining wholes into a new form, and here it means the infusion of meaning into every system in human life. Why meaning? Because humans don't run on logic, they run on narrative, myth, and deep purpose. Without meaning, people fall to nihilism, apathy, or consumer addiction. Civilizations collapse from spiritual emptiness. Cultures become addicted to artificial dopamine. Meaning integration includes reviving sacred narrative without enforcing dogma, seeing life as a test or training under divine observation, fusing ethics, aesthetics, and metaphysics into one living story, designing systems that, in quotations, feel like they matter at every level. A civilization without meaning is a body without soul. What does the N imply? Self-reflection through ecosystem design. Symbol meaning. The exponent N represents multiplication through replication. Why self-replication? because even a perfect model dies if it can't scale. The goal isn't to make one great city, app, or school, it's to create something that teaches and spreads itself. True system design must scale through culture, not force, replicate like biological seeds, not mechanical parts, adapt to local context, but retain spiritual DNA. Be open source in philosophy and practice. This exponent makes the formula not just true, but inevitable when done right. Then we go to, I guess, the what's on the other side of the equal sign, advanced humanity, A. So what does the symbol mean? AH equals advanced humanity. That regular triangle is delta, the symbol for transformation and evolution. Why call it advanced humanity? Because we're not simply evolving biologically, we are evolving existentially. Advanced humanity means emotionally mature, spiritually grounded, ethically intelligent, cosmically aligned, technologically wise, systemically sovereign. It is not utopia, it is a species that deserves to survive. Philosophical core of the formula. This formula is a mirror as much as it is a plan. It doesn't just show us what to do, it shows us why we failed and what kind of beings we must become to build a worthy world. It says humanity is not in a crisis of information, it is in a crisis of coordination, meaning, and identity. And the solution is not one dimensional, it must integrate the inner soul, the outer system, the upward tech, and beyond and beyond, which is the meaning. That's what this formula encodes. Why this formula above all? Because it merges spirituality and logic, bridges ancient wisdom and future tech, guides both individuals and civilizations, is scalable and adaptive, can be taught, mapped, and replicated. This is not a slogan, it's a living logic for species level advancement. So now I'm asking for it to give an example of the equation. So it says, um, it can be used in practice step by step as if you're building a prototype of an advanced humanity in one location. Use case, for example, it says building an advanced humanity hub in Dubai. You, Amin, decide to create a small physical prototype community in Dubai to demonstrate the principles of the formula. Guys, I have a company in Dubai that's aimed in building smart cities in Dubai. But anyways, here it's saying example. So step one, K kernel awakening. You start by choosing and cultivating the people, not based on wealth or skills, but based on their level of self-awareness, openness, and compassion. You create Jesus Christ, what is this? Okay, guys. It's I asked it for a different example. For example, if we wanted to create a school that creates advanced humans, like how would this equation fit into that? So compared to a regular school and a school that uses advanced humanity formula. So it says kernel awakening. Regular schools teach kids what to think. This school teaches kids how to think, why they feel what they feel, and who they are deep inside. They learn how to control their emotions, how to question their thoughts, how to act from purpose, not pressure. Result: kids become self aware, kind, focused, and driven by meaning, not grades. Then we go to systemic inversion. In most schools, students sit in rows, memorize facts, and compete for marks. This school inverts the system. Students collaborate instead of compete, Learning is project based, not test based. Teachers are mentors, not bosses. Result: the system brings out the best in kids instead of stressing them out. T. Tech amplification. Most schools use tech just for slideshows or online homework. This school uses AI to help students learn in personalized ways. Tablets with journaling prompts that reflect their thinking, apps that show emotional patterns and guide them to grow. Result: tech helps them know themselves better, not just learn faster. Then we have meaning integration. Most schools don't talk about life's purpose. This school helps each student answer: why am I here? What kind of person do I want to become? What will I leave behind? They mediate, reflect, they meditate, reflect, and learn to see life as a journey with meaning. Results: students feel grounded, motivated, and connected to something bigger than themselves. Replication. This school teaches its students how to create more schools like this. Some students graduate and start their own versions in other cities. They improve the design, teach new people, and the model spreads. Result: the system grows on its own, like seeds planting more seeds. Final result: from just one school using this formula, a new kind of human being begins to emerge: more aware, more ethical, more creative, more unified, more spiritually grounded. It says, think of a school that doesn't just teach kids to get jobs, but teaches them to become who they truly are and help others do the same. That's what this formula does. It awakens the person, fixes the system, uses tech wisely, adds deep meaning, and then spreads like a good idea. The result: a better human, a better world. That's advanced humanity. So, yeah, so in some sense, there needs to be a kernel awakening. So if you've been told what to think, you need to think how to think. Then there's systemic inversion. What's the opposite of happening in the system? For example, right now, you know, it's right now the system. I mean, to consider inversions is key. I do consider this also like a general in a battlefield has to consider the worst case scenarios. You know, it has to consider if the values were opposite, how would the situation turn out? It needs tech to amplify it. So, in some sense, these are pretty much this is the formula, guys. It's saying better awaken the person, fix the system, use smart tech wisely, add deep meaning, repeat it again and again equals a better humanity. So the equation this AI is saying is pretty much, for example, you better people, you better the system, you better the tech, and you deepen the meaning, and you do repeat this as many times to get a better world. Okay, this is the equation that this AI is giving. Okay, it's even saying here, if we help people wake up inside, change how the world works, use technology with wisdom, and live with real purpose, then we'll keep repeating that model until the whole world becomes more advanced. So you see, guys, even AI in its approach, it's in some sense come up with a formula and it's repeating it until it gets results. Now, if we look at now, I'm no longer reading the research. I'm commenting here as myself now. You see, folks, the human being, something they don't teach, they don't tell people. And I am here not to, in some sense, explain to you how to live your life. I'm here to explain certain functions to the human experience that I'm perceiving that have made me, that have led me to certain conclusions. Okay. So I'll begin by this, that when you look at the human being, they don't tell you this, but I find this to be a very cool way. This is the way I treat it. I treat consciousness as a strategist. I treat the human awareness, in some sense, in regards to how they say strategy is to win the war and tactics is to how to win every battle, pretty much. Okay, tactics is how to win every battle, strategy is how to win the war. Now, I'm treating consciousness as a strategist. Consciousness has one great war to fight, and I think we all know this. It is pretty much how does it experience itself while it's here? How does it experience its being, its value? So to be honest, like, sure, yes, you do see human beings with bodies, in front of their eyes they're physical entities, behind their eyes they're subjective entities. Behind their eyes they are an awareness to how the objects and subjects are changing simultaneously. My conclusion is that, yes, the argument can be made that the body is not aware of the mind, but I feel that the genius in the design of the human organism intelligence is that it can notice itself change. And so it's like you think that when you notice your body change, it's your mind that is aware, but in actuality, you've also noticed your mind change. So it's pretty much saying, we're saying the human being basically, not to get too metaphysical, is pretty much body and mind. The body is a physical noun. The mind seems to be a subjective verb, a sort of character and a story of its meaning. Now, at the same time, if I find that there is an awareness to our intelligence, that I have been noticing my body change throughout the years, and I have been noticing different thoughts coming and going in accordance to how I have activated in different situations. So, in my approach, intelligence is strategizing, and it has a conscious strategy and it has an unconscious strategy. When we become aware consciously of the unconscious strategy, it's as if we've lived in accordance to instinct. But human beings are not just instinctual creatures, because we have an inner space where we can access probabilities to reality. So if we say the statement, is the human being just accessing, just perceiving a physical reality, that statement is not true. And if you're not just experiencing a physical reality, then you're not just a physical being. That's, well, that settles that. Now the question is, what kind of how is consciousness being influenced by reality? So we have the physical world that influences us, but our brain takes models like the geometry of the outer realms, and it makes inner realm models that can be modified. So what does this mean? It means that if consciousness is strategizing, or let me say it this way, it's like, what is the strategy for the biological body? What is the strategy for our body? What is the strategy for our mind? And what is the strategy for the awareness that is aware of body and mind at the same time? Now, for me, it's very obvious that Human beings are all in the same physical server because they, in some sense, have been designed that way. We have not been designed to just linger in our own worlds of meaning, especially when there's others here. If you were stranded on an island, yes, your mind could translate the meaning. Like if there was only one human being in the world, the meaning, the inner realm meaning of that human being would become the meaning of the whole world because that human being is the only light in the room, for example. I have thought about this situation of advancing humanity for a while. And the idea goes like this: that we look at the human being, we look at its design, then we multiply it by 8 billion, and we, in some sense, wonder what the outcome is. So, what we find is human beings have different outer realms. Excuse me. They have a different outer realm position. In front of your eyes, you have a unique DNA. And even though we haven't coded the cosmic space, but you probably have a barcode in regards to what you're occupying in the space time continuum. Okay, so you do have a code in the space time continuum. At the same time, your DNA is a sort of unique code. So your occupation in the space-time existence would probably be like the code of your DNA plus, the code of that space. So it's like we're asking ourselves what is going to happen to 8 billion technologies that have access to outer hardware and have access to inner software in some sense. So to be honest, when I see humans, you are a hardware and you are also software, but you're also the awareness, you're also the user of the hardware and the software. To be a human being is like sitting at your computer desk playing a video game, but it's all of it is in the same moment. Do you know? So in some sense, it's like the person sitting behind the computer screen is the seat of your consciousness, the soul is the seat of your awareness. In some sense, the software of the video game is your mind, the hardware of the video game is your body. And the user is not in the video game, yet it is playing it, and every day it is respawning in it. Okay, so every day we wake up, we're logging back into the biological physical server, and simultaneously into an internal private subjective server. And you're aware of these servers at the same time, as if all conscious organisms and intelligence are actually in a non-physical server. It's kind of like, you know what it is? It's like what you find in the world is matter, but then you look at the matter and you're like, why does this matter? And human beings have reached the point of meaning. So as a conscious, as a being that perceives, you're like a life force, and your mind is a life force, your body is a life form, and your soul is life itself. And so this awareness that is being a moment of being has an ability to, in some sense, uh, uh, reactivate its force upon its form, which is the reintroduction of new meaning. You see, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot ignore the fact that you are an energetic container. None of us can avoid this. Right now, the skin on my body is a sort of container. My awareness extends beyond the boundaries of my skin, beyond my physical body. I am aware of the space. In the same way my body is in my awareness, in the same way other objects are, but the difference is the cell signals. So, for example, when I touch, like this laptop on my lap right now, I'm touching something physical. Okay, Now, in the same way, I'm also an object. Okay, so when I touch an object, I'm experiencing the sensation of an object, but the awareness to the sensation is not objective. So, what I'm telling you is you have access to physicality, but you're not just physical. So, you have access to objectivity, but you're not just an objective entity. You have access to subjectivity that moves the objectivity, that models over reality for the objectivity to fill out, but you're not just subjectivity. You are actually the space where objects and subjects can be you, but you can't identify with the space because it's like an invisible being trying to be invisible. It's impossible. It already is what it's trying to identify as. Okay, so an invisible person can't try to be invisible again. Do you understand what I'm saying? In the same sense that an awareness cannot choose to be awareness of itself again. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing to be, there is no content. It's like right now you are an invisible viewer of a visible realm, and you have a checkpoint in the visible realm. Technically, it's not just visible. You can see it as three dimensions, but the relationship these dimensions have is very different. So traditionally, they would see the soul as like, imagine this giant sphere, and inside of it is the mind, and a smaller sphere, and inside that sphere, there's a smaller sphere, the body. And it was as if, like, okay, how do we explain consciousness being the start of existential meaning? In some sense, there must be a condition, there must be a space. How do I say it? It's kind of like, just like you need a foundation to build something upon, the foundation of subjective meaning isn't per se built on physicality. It is built on experience, on space experiencing. It's like we're experiencing the space where our reality is happening. Now we can choose to identify with the event in the, or we can choose not to. In the same way that you go into a film theater, like a movie theater, and you watch a film. Let's say you watch Titanic. You get emotional, you're weeping, you're bawling out. Like you're crying. Okay? So in the same way, it's a film, it's not real. Why are you getting emotional? Guess what? Your brain is incredibly projecting a film over where your attributeless awareness is. And the temptation to identify with attributes is kind of, we can't stop it because we can move the physical body. Okay, you know what I'm saying? It's like it's very hard for someone to have a tool in their hand and not to use it. This is why they say people shouldn't buy guns, for example, in states that allow them, right? Because ultimately, what you find, what you hold in your attention, you end up using. Do you know, somebody can say like, "Yo, man, I'm gonna go and read, like, the worst books of all time," right? And they're not gonna affect me. But you don't know. It's kind of like we gotta treat ourselves like chemicals. Like, imagine, like, you're like a blue colored gas, and your interaction with something, like, imagine a green colored gas. Okay, or imagine a blue colored gas and a yellow colored gas, you're going to end up being green. So, dear human beings, yes, you have been conditioned in a world that is progressing slow enough for you to be able to identify with a noun. But as civilization speeds up towards advancement, the container that is identifying with how it's containing everything else is not going to be enough. And this might sound very strange. It was hard for me to come to terms with it, but it's either going to be that the world is going to end, before we're not going to be made of the world anymore. What I mean by this is that either this species and civilization will get the green light from the system admin to continue, or it will not. But if it does continue, at some point, the species, guys, you don't understand what we're missing out on. My whole urge to get my species to identify with this value of the species, you don't get it. You're living lives that are not justified because you can have a better life. Do you know what I mean? It's like if somebody is like using a shoe to like hammer in nails and like some like in building a house, and there's a hammer and you're still using a shoe, it's as if you have not understood the value or the meaning of life. The meaning of life is constantly being introduced to new forms that advance your current form. You see, even though I had AI create a formula, it's very obvious that how an advanced civilization happens, folks. It's common sense. It simply occurs when you. So I'll give you an example. You have 8 billion beings in an unadvanced civilization. To truly to get 8 billion beings into an advanced civilization, they have to start becoming fascinated by their more advanced life. An advanced civilization means an advanced life. And you, O human being that is alive now, you must ask yourself, what is the most advanced state for consciousness? What does your species truly deserve? If you're someone who have gone and bought yourself a suit, you've bought yourself a nice car, a nice house. In some sense, it is now time for you to surpass the limits of individual responsibility, usher yourself into an era of collective responsibility. You know, something that breaks my heart is that there's many human beings right now on earth who they have like tremendous attention on them, but rather than pointing us towards the greatness of our future, do you understand? They stand like statues, mute statues. I am telling you, ladies and gentlemen, you're living in a very strange world at a very strange time where a species is shifting its basic alphabet of identity. What that means is, in some sense, to be a human being post 2025 requires you to empathize with your species. And somebody's going to be like, Mr. Within, how are you going to get 8 billion human beings to, in some sense, put away all their personal bias and emotions for the species and help build an advanced civilization? My answer is very simple. If I have to, if the human beings are egotistical, that's a different strategy. If the human beings are not egotistical, I don't need to convince them to, in some sense, build an advanced civilization. You see, ultimately, you need honesty. If a species is honest with itself, it advances itself based on original information. So, my strategy would be that if you're, let's say, you have an ego of a specific way things should be good or a specific way things should be evil. If you're an egotistical entity, I will pretty much defeat your ego by telling you that by asking you, what is your ego living for? Right now, you are a sense of self, a character in a story. This story that you have forged for yourself into meaning gives you a certain value. Now, I'm asking you, as a human being, as one human being speaking to another human being, what do you see playing out on this planet? Just as an ego. I don't need you to be a saint. I don't need you to be some enlightened being. I just need you as a human being to close your eyes and fast forward this film on earth and tell me, is there a greater argument than building an advanced civilization on earth? Everything points to the advancement of the ability of man. We have seen this. We have seen, or it's as if you're wondering how your ancestors got your DNA here. Do you understand? It was as if they were guided in some sense by many forces, but ultimately it was their innovation, adaptability, and higher ideal that pulled them. To be honest, There is an intelligence in this reality. The system is being administered beyond human conscious variables, which means that we have to consider the unknown. To advance 8 billion human beings, we have to make them understand that a better world is waiting for them. In the same way, human beings go and they attend their miserable job for the hope of getting a raise. Well, guess what? Now it's the same thing. It's like you got to treat it's not too far off as a metaphor that if we treated the humanity as a business. Okay, let's give this a try. Let's treat humanity as a business. There's 8 billion employees. Okay, who are the managers? The managers are the ideological systems that manage the human beings. Okay, who is the system admin? The original forces that provide the context to reality. Pretty much what I'm trying to say is that 8 billion beings can't all opt into one advanced view of reality, but but an advanced civilization is built on advanced common denominator values. So all that human beings need to do is they need to look at their value system again, wonder about the most advanced values, realize that there is a macro commonality. You right now like are left to yourself to be given value. You're giving yourself meaning. But what you don't understand is that the meaning is being based on your inner realms. Your inner realms does not just include the idea of you. It's very difficult to say behind your eyes you're just being one idea, or you're actually being all the ideas you're aware of, but you select one. To me, free will has the purpose of selection among infinite viewpoints, among an infinite multiple choice. Anyways, guys, the whole point of it was that we want to advance civilization. If civilization can be defined as the total output of all human expression, that means whether you know it or not, you are advancing civilization right now. But the question is, at what rate? Pretty much advanced civilizations advance when they get bored and tired of their looping inefficiency. We want to build an advanced civilization. An advanced civilization is the expression of advanced humans. We need to advance humans. So to me, like a part of the problem has been done. That means imagine if there were no humans and they were like build an advanced civilization. I'll be like, man, we got to first create a world, then we got to get all the beings in the same world, and then we got to talk to them. Right? But now we don't I don't need to do that. I don't need to get all of you on earth. I don't need to, in some sense, get everybody in my, everybody is already attending the event. It's like we've all attended this class in this world room. We're all attending this world room, this world classroom, and there's this massive group project, and now the group projects unfortunately have been nationalized, so all the people from one country, they're all part of one group project in this world classroom. Okay, now the idea is all the group projects are meshing into one giant project, as if the teacher is like every kid in this classroom will pass if, in some sense, all the national systems, in some sense, unify into one grander vision. You see, ladies and gentlemen, I pretty much asked the question, why am I identifying with my nation and not identifying with my species? And then the question goes further. Why am I identifying with just my species, and why am I not identifying with the presence of the world? And then it goes even deeper. Why am I not identifying with the awareness to the world? Why am I identifying with the world? And eventually you reach a point where you discover the limitations of your system, and that's when the system admin is required to be noticed. Pretty much you're in a simulation, that the way out of the simulation cannot be done by your intelligence alone. It is done by the system admin. You have to directly go to the system admin. You have to avoid the users and the mods, and you have to realize that the system admin is the original value to a simulated realm. People think religion is religion. No, religion is in some sense one of the an ancient solution to a problem that beings till the end of time will fathom. We are blessed to be conscious of the system admin in this world. We're blessed to all be in position. Now it's all about our actions in accordance to our greatest awareness. What that means, you act when you have reached an awareness. So, pretty much, my philosophy is this, that all problems can be solved, but they can only be solved if the awareness unlocks the understanding of how the problem is there. So the expansion of your awareness is the task. Pretty much, I have to start acting like an advanced civilization for human beings to realize it is possible. It is so possible, it is ridiculous how we're not advanced yet. Anyways, that's it for today's lecture. Thank you for listening. An advanced civilization is the future's birthright, it is God given. In other words, God, the most advanced, created something which is means it's one of the most advanced creations. And as this most advanced creation, you don't create things without purpose. So there is a purpose to the human experience that surpasses. Excuse me, something was burning. So, anyways, thank you for listening. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. Auzu billah shaitan rajim. May God protect us from the cursed one and unnecessary ignorance. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, all praise due to the Lord of the worlds. Rabbi Gfirli, my Lord, forgive me. My Lord, forgive my species and your creation for all the sins it is conscious and unconscious of. Ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqim. May God guide us to the direct path. May the most advanced guide us to the most advanced in the most advanced way. Thank you.